Welcome to a weekly mini session. Each week we will deliver a bite-sized workshop on hot topics. This workshop will be live on our main Facebook page as well as our certified teachers group. We will also have it recorded so you can reference all of our previous topics on the AcroDance Resource Center. Be sure to let us know where you're from in the comments below. Today's topic is key elements for a solid and safe back handspring. We have special guest teacher Vicki Fletcher with us. Vicki has adjudicated dance competitions and has taught workshops at many studios worldwide. She has won many awards for her creative and innovative choreography, and her students have won numerous awards, scholarships, and titles. Vicki is our resident expert here at Acrobatic Arts and will bring you lots of great tips today. Vicki, take it away.
Thanks, Marie. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay.
You bet. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So good morning, teachers, or afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are. I'm just going to change my view here. There we go. Marie, can you pin me? Do you pin me so I can?
Yep. No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, I'm good like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. It's just different on mine. All right. Okay, so teachers, today we're going to talk about back handsprings. And what we're going to talk about back handsprings are our key elements. So the things in our back handsprings that's going to keep it safe. So that's the number one thing we really need to do with these back handsprings. Any kind of backwards tumbling skills, the chance of injury is amplified more so than forward tumbling. So we really want to make sure that your dancers have a good understanding of what is required, and that you as teachers have a good understanding of what is required. So I'm just going to touch on what we feel are the key elements. So these are the number one things we need to look for, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is our body shaping. So it's really important that our dancers understand our hollow position and our Superman position. These are key for our back handsprings. Our hollow position comes in 3 times, okay? So that hollow position is going to be in the sit at the beginning. It's going to be on that second flying phase, and it's also going to be in the rebound after the back handspring. So we want to make sure that they are really strong on their hollow position, and this is also going to create really strong core muscles. And this comes right back in the primary level in the acrobatic art syllabus. So we're training them right from when they start. So you'll even see with Miss Loren, she did the preschool one right before this, and they were talking about log rolls, and that is key. That's a skill right there that's key for learning hollow and Superman. So Victoria, can you just show us a hollow position? Sorry, I meant to introduce you. This is Victoria. This is my demonstrator for today. So she's going to show us a hollow position. This is really hard to get into with those little ones. And you want to make sure that things aren't happening like the arms are reaching too far forward. Can you reach your arms too far forward? Yep, so she's sitting up just too high now, or the arms come back and the legs come up too high. Okay? So we want to make sure that that back is pressed really tight into the ground. And then can you show us our Superman? So our Superman position, we're going to do head and line first. Okay, so this is where the first flying phase, our Superman is going to come in. And then when they land on their hands, she's going to flex her hands and look at them. That's about the position she will be in when she lands on the hands in that back handspring. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I'm pretty sure we're all good at our Superman and our hollow and creating drills for those. But I just really want to reiterate how important those 2 body shapes are, okay? So don't skimp on them, work really hard on them so that your dancers really have a good understanding. So now we're going to talk about the sit. So the sit at the beginning of the back handspring is something that needs a lot of attention, and the sit is also going to determine just how good or how bad that back handspring is, okay? So work lots and lots of drills. You can work on these years before they're even ready for back handsprings, and then it's fantastic because you can tell the parents that, yes, we're going to be working on back handsprings. It might not be this year, but we're working on drills that are going to make those back handsprings come a lot faster when it does come time to doing these, okay? So with our sit, one of the most important things is that we want to make sure that the hips are going behind the heels. So we're going to start with our feet together, and we're going to make sure that those hips, when we sit back, go behind the heels. So I'm going to give you a couple drills on this, some that you can do with a partner or teacher and dancer, and ones that you can do depending on where you're located. I'm not sure with what your COVID rules are right now, and if touching is allowed. If you kind of can't do any partnering, I'll give you a couple little things that you can work on, okay? So I'm just going to show you first what I'm talking about when I say the hips need to be behind. So I'm just going to start holding onto Victoria's hands. Her feet are going to start together. She's going to sit back, and she's going to find almost like she's sitting in a chair, but not 90 degrees. So she is not all the way down to 90 degrees. Do that again. Now you're also going to notice too that she is hollow in her chest there. So we got a rounded shoulders. That is really important. We're going to watch to make sure that the feet are flat and the knees are still stacked over top of the ankles. Okay? This is really, really key, finding this position. So I'm going to get Victoria now to go back. I've just put an incline mat up against the wall here. So this is a good way that she can practice just the sit back, and she can do it safely into the mat. So I have it on an incline mat because then her hips are actually going to hit before her shoulders do, which is kind of what we're looking for. So now she's going to feel that her hips are hitting before her shoulders. Ready? And she's going to go sit, right? And then do it again. Ready? And go, sit. Yeah, it's pretty loud on my wall there. But this is super, super important. So work lots on this. I like to actually put them too in front of an incline mat. So they're going to stand at the base of the incline mat, the lower level, and they can just do this sit until they fall onto the mat. So if they can sit and come back up, they're in the wrong spot. All right? They need to sit until they fall back. So really, really important that they do this. Watch when they're doing it that their head is also staying neutral. So we don't want them to do this and pull their chin into their chest. Kind of like, so in our hollow, we do kind of do that a little bit. We want to make sure that the chin is not coming in and it's not looking down. So we want to make sure that we keep that neutral, okay? So then once they have that understanding, I'm going to actually go behind Victoria now. So now she has to trust that I'm going to get her, okay? So maybe staying in communication with your dancers, making sure they know when you're going to be here. So now this is, like I said, we're working on the hips coming back. So her body's going to be in a little bit, her upper body's going to be in a little bit different of a position. But this is another way that I can help her as a partner, okay? So I'm going to catch her on her shoulder blades, which is going to kind of pull her back a little bit, or her shoulders back a little bit more than what we want, but it's going to concentrate more on the hips. Ready? And go. So the hips are behind. And go. So all I'm doing is absorbing her weight. One more time. Okay? So this is super important, making sure that those hips are going back. I'm going to show you in a little bit what it's going to look like if that doesn't happen. So now we're going to talk about our sit and our stretch, okay? So this is the next part of it. So what's going to initiate this push off is going to be her hips. She really needs to think about driving those hips up to the ceiling. So now I'm going to catch her on a stretch in a hollow position. So I'm going to put my hands on her first so you can see going through this slowly. So she sits back to the position and then she goes hips up, hollow position. Right? And then try it again. So she goes hips back, hips up. Okay? So now once she understands that and she's feeling confident, she's going to go a lot quicker. So these back handsprings are a powerful, quick move. It's not something that you want to train these drills to go really slow, okay? This, I just took it through slow so that you understand the hips up and hips back, or hips back and hips up, and she understands it, okay? So now once she's got that, now I'm going to tell her she's going to go a lot faster, and I'm going to catch her just on the stretch. Are you ready? And go. Sit, stretch. Yeah, and go again. One more time. Good. Okay. So once she understands that, we're also going to make sure that the toes aren't lifting. Can you do it again and lift your toes? Go. Okay. So we want to make sure that that's not happening. Now can you do it and not sit back in your hips? This, hopefully she doesn't fall demonstrating this, but her weight's going to be going in the wrong spot. So this is what happens if she doesn't push her hips up. Go. Okay. Right? So that's kind of hard to hold her there. So she needs to make sure she's really using those hips to get up into that super hollow position. All right? So now once she understands that, now we're going to add the jump. So I am going to stand behind her. I want to make sure that this is all going back. So the hips are going back. When she jumps off, she's pushing off both feet. She's driving her hips up to the ceiling, strong arms by her ears to that hollow position. And I'm going to just kind of absorb her the impact coming into me, and then she's going to go back down to where she started. Ready? And go. Good. And again. Good. So I'm not catching her and lifting her up over my head at all. All right? So now she's going to show you the sit and stretch on here. And go. Okay? So now she's going to make contact with the mat with her shoulders, her rounded shoulders. Okay? Try it again. So she's in her hollow position right here. Okay? She's a little tall right now for me to do the jump on this, or she's going to end up hitting her hands on the wall. So I actually have some new equipment. I have never taught with these, so it's new, and we are just kind of fooling around with them and trying to figure out what's going on. But if you have the extra income that you can spend on things, we have a couple new things that we're trying out from Tumble Track. Okay, so this is called their air barrel. This is the largest one that they have. So the only thing with these is you have to make sure, can you stand with your back to it? This needs to be at hip height of your dancer. Okay, so if it is too high or if it's too low, it's going to cause a lot of bad habits in their back handsprings. So if I had a smaller dancer and this is the large barrel, then she could stand up on stacked mats to get at the proper height. Okay, so this is where these would come in handy if you can't do hands-on. Okay, so Victoria's going to do her sit and her stretch on this. So she's going to sit back, so her bottom touches first, and then stretch. And she went all the way over. Yep, and then come back. I'm going to pull her back over. All right, we're going to do it again. So this is going to make sure that I'm going to push it back a little bit. So she has quite a big arm swing, so she's kind of hitting a little bit with her hands, but that's okay. But what we want to see is that her bum is going to touch first, and then she's going to push her hips up again, right, to create that first flying phase. Ready? So she's going to sit back and up. There, okay? So she had so much momentum there that it's taking it over, and that's the thing. So when you have dancers using these, if they don't have a strong enough push, they're not making it over. So this is a really good way and a pretty safe way for them to do on their own to really create that powerful jump, okay? So that is one way. Can you pull that out for me? So now we're going to pull out, this is just an incline mat that's good. This is just an incline mat that we have that's folded in half, okay? This is a really large incline mat, but it's handy for these as well. So now Victoria's gonna do that sit and the jump that she couldn't do on the wall because she's just a little bit too tall. She's gonna do the sit and jump onto this top of this mat, and we have a pit pillow here that's kind of stopping the hard impact, okay? So Victoria's gonna do it, and she's gonna jump, and she's gonna land in her hollow position. Okay, so we're looking for that hollow, not just laying flat. Can you do it and just lay flat? So just be floppy. So this is not what we're looking for. So the legs aren't hanging, the arms aren't smacking off the floor. She's landing solidly in that hollow position. So these are super important drills. So really work lots and lots about getting those hips back. And the more she stands out from here, the more she has to jump back. So I'm going to get you to stand here. Okay, so now she has to make sure she really pushes to get back there. Okay, so that's going to really help her create that distance. So with our back handsprings, we don't want high, we want long. Okay, so making sure that that hip sit is going back so that the direction of the back handspring goes back. Okay, so we're going to pull this out of the way. And we're going to give you a couple exercises. That's good. We'll give you a couple exercises to do just on getting those hips up, all right? So Victoria's gonna start laying on the floor. She's gonna put her arms up over her head, and this is gonna mimic basically starting here for her back handspring. So then her arms are, do it slow, her arms are gonna come down to her side, just like you would if you were sitting in your back handspring, and then she's gonna go hips up and hold it there, and then come down, okay? So now we're gonna do it regular time. Ready? 6, 7, go. Okay, and again, 6, 7, go. Okay, so just this is going to work on that driving of the hips, and then we're going to put this down. This is just a smaller mat. So I'm going to get Victoria now to put her feet up on the mats. She's going to do the exact same drill. Ready? And. Okay, so this is really working on the hip drive, and go. Okay, and then the last one, actually, I like this one the best. So I'm going to sit her. Victoria could actually be even higher. Move forward a bit. Actually, you're a little far. With Victoria, I would actually do a little bit higher for her, but this would be good for some of the smaller ones. She's going to start her arms in front. She's not going to be able to do a huge arm swing, obviously, because the floor is there. But this is really making her use more upper body and hip action to get up into that hollow position. So now she's going to throw her body back up onto the mats. And up. Okay, and again. Okay, so this is another good drill. Lots of drills, spread them all out all over your room, and it's going to allow you to do other things. So you might have ones, even if you have dancers that are still working on their back handsprings, they're actually physically doing it. This is something that I 100% believe needs to be spotted. This is not something that I would ever teach a brand new student how to do a back handspring over Zoom, okay? I 100% believe that they need the spot. They need the hands-on for this just to make sure that they are safe at all times, okay? So when we are also doing this, we're gonna look for things like her head going forward. So I'm gonna show you just in a couple minutes some things that are gonna happen on your back handsprings if the key elements are overlooked, okay? So a lot of the times on our Facebook page, we get a lot of questions about back handsprings and figuring out what's going wrong and asking for suggestions on helping them. And so these are some of the biggest things that I find are the causes of things. So the first one we're going to talk about is our feet moving at the beginning. So our feet are going to start together, although some dancers, they get a little bit nervous for some reason about those feet being glued together. You do want to try to train them here, but if they're maybe like an inch or two apart, that's not huge. You just don't want them wide, okay? So you do want to try to get these together as much as possible. But what you want to look for is that when they go to do their back handspring, those feet should not move at all. So first of all, I'm actually going to get Victoria to do a good back handspring. So you're going to watch, and the sit that she does might be completely different than the sit that one of my other dancers does, or one of your dancers does, okay? There are not going to be two sits that are identical. Those dancers, the stronger they get, they're going to figure out what works for them. So allow them to try and find what works best for them, as long as it's not causing something to go wrong with that back handspring, okay? So if you watch with Victoria, and a majority of my dancers tend to do a straight leg sit at the beginning, only because, like right off the bat, because it pushes their hips behind. So we're just gonna watch Victoria do this once. Okay, so that is a pretty solid back handspring. It's nice and quick and powerful, what we're looking for. So I'm going to show you now if somebody moves their feet at the beginning. So this to me is, they're really unsure and they're lacking confidence in this skill. And so I probably would stop letting them do it on their own, and I would get my hands back on them again, okay? Because to me, if they're doing like a little jump or moving those feet, that's what it's showing. They're unsure and they're kind of questioning the skill of what they're doing, okay? So Victoria's going to demonstrate this. There. So did you see the feet move there? So the thing is Victoria's going to show you some of these bad ways, but I'm confident because she's got so much upper body strength that she's going to be able to hold herself in these safely, okay? So I am purposely getting her to demonstrate some things wrong. It's not what I'm saying to do with your dancers. So that is if they're moving their feet. So if you see a dancer moving their feet, a lot of the times, especially if they're jumping forward, if they jump forward, that's going to cause a lot of problems in that back handspring. It's probably going to cause some undercutting. So undercutting is when those hands land so close to where the feet start, okay? So we want to make sure everything's going back. Those feet need to be solid before they push into that back handspring, and they cannot move, okay? Body leaning too far forward or with your head down. This is going to create the back handspring to go up way too high, okay? So we're going to watch her do one where she drops her body down, head comes down. Go ahead. Okay, so did you see how much shorter that was than her original one? Okay, putting the head down is going to cause them to go up instead of back. So you want to make sure that that head stays neutral. They should always be looking straight ahead of them before they do their back handspring. Or if they're looking down a little bit, it should be more towards like the end of the mat, okay? Not down at their feet by any means. So now we're going to talk about our weight going back. So this is where we're going to be in a dangerous position. So one thing that I find, I'm going to get Victoria to do it, and I honestly wish I could pause it. If you can go back and pause her on this, try it, and pause her in the handstand position, okay? Because this handstand position is going to be in a really dangerous spot. So we're going to watch her throw her head back, and we'll see where she is in the handstand position. Okay, so do you see how her head is really like jutting forward instead of just looking at her hands or staying in line? Okay, this is making, can you go down on your hands and knees and show this position? So this is the position that you got to watch for, and I see it a lot, and this is where you're going to have broken wrists happening because that stacking isn't happening. Okay, so we want to watch for things like that. Can you do now a double bounce? A double bounce could still send the back handspring back, but the problem with the double bounce is it's going to make connecting to a back handspring really hard. So you want to get rid of this double bounce. So she goes bounce and over. Okay, so do you see how she's got that arm swing? Her hips might still go back a little bit, but it's hard to double bounce if her hips are really far back where we want them, okay? So those are some of the things that we want to look for. You want to make sure that they are doing super, super strong arm swings. So no hesitation on things. That jump has to be powerful every single time. It's like they need 100% commitment to this skill, okay? They can't sort of do like, I'm not sure if I want to do it, and kind of 60% go for it. 60% go for it is going to be arms giving out and probably falling on the back of their neck, which is extremely dangerous and we don't want to happen. So building confidence on this sit and starting them young is fantastic. All right, so now we're going to talk about the next area. This is our blocking stage, okay? This is where we're talking about they have to build a lot of upper body strength. So the number one thing that I say, tell anybody in acro is to work on handstands. Handstands, 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 super important. The blocking is that shoulder action that creates the second flying phase, okay? So your handstand shoulder shrugs are fantastic. You can do those handstand shoulder shrugs when they're younger in a push-up position or up on their hands and knees. This blocking stage requires really good upper body strength, wrist strength, and core strength, okay? So we're going to talk about the shape of it first. So I'm just going to talk first about, stand on this side. First about my clock reference. So can you click up to a handstand? She's kicking up to a handstand. This is our 6 o'clock, okay? So this, if you hit this position, she's missed the blocking stage. So what we want are her legs to go to about here. Okay, so for you, it's about 10 to 6, okay? So that is where the blocking stage has to come in. And when she's in that proper position, she's gonna have her shoulders stacked over her wrists, and her hips are gonna be pretty close to being stacked over top as well, okay? Because that momentum is going back, it might be a split second off that they're not quite there, but they get there like within half a second, okay? So one good thing that I actually like to do, I'm gonna move this out of the way, is doing the handstand shoulder shrugs on the wall, but in that 10-2 position, okay? So Victoria's gonna kick up. She's gonna get into her best position for where she would be blocking, and then she's gonna sink in her shoulders, and then she's gonna pull up to her hollow position, and then she's gonna sink and pull up to her hollow, and then come down. Okay, So this is going to build a lot of lower back strength to be able to do this. It's going to get her to understand that as soon as she jumps back, she's going to sink in her shoulders, right? And then she immediately has to push out. So getting this proper position is really important. And finding that proper position is going to depend on that sit, okay? So I'm going to tell you that the 90% of the problems are going to come from that sit and from lack of upper body strength. So if Victoria jumps into this and she's undercutting or she doesn't quite hit that 10 pass position, she's going to have a lot of problems coming down. So I'm going to get Victoria to show you a back handspring that doesn't block, okay? So this is what it looks like if that block doesn't happen. Okay, and that is common, especially if you're teaching them from when they're younger. This is showing that they just don't have enough upper body strength to create that second flying face. So this is where you're going to get them on the wall doing the handstand shoulder shrugs, donkey kicks, handstand hops, all of those things to build strong upper body, okay? So you can also take them. Can you come and do it? And I'm going to do the sit. So this is hard with Victoria because she's like the same height as I am. But this is what I do with my little ones. So I get them to actually sit back with all their weight into my arms where they would normally be to take off. And then I get her to go from there. So she's not going to be able to do the block or anything at the end, but it's going to help her kind of understand where she needs to be. Okay. So she's going to sit back and I'm going to have her in the position she needs to be in. And then she's going to spring from there. Okay. So that's what I do with my little ones. I pull them, get them to feel exactly where they are, and then they go. You can also stop them in that handstand, in that 10 pass, and make sure that they are nice and stacked, okay? So super important on these back handsprings that those hips are stacked over top of their shoulders, shoulders are stacked over the wrists, so that we are not having any breaks in there. If they are arching way too much, they're gonna come into a lot of problems with that block, okay? So if they have a huge arch in their body, their block is probably going to be coming from like a 90-degree angle, which sometimes is just way too low. So they're going to have to muscle their way over, okay? So all of these things are, well, these two things, the sit and that block, those are the two main areas that I want you to pay attention to when you're teaching your back handsprings. Making sure that they are solid. So start them long before they are doing back handsprings. So say you want to start back handsprings around age 10, then from the age they're 7 up until 10, you can work on all of these drills. So then when it comes time for them to actually do the back handsprings, they're going to learn it a lot faster because they have the body awareness. I love to drill my dancers a lot on questions and asking them the different shapes so that they can really understand what's going on, okay? So that is our quick little class on back handsprings. And this is by any means not the do-all and end-all to your back handspring training, okay? So take lots of time, take the aerial back handspring workshop. That is a fantastic course that does like 2.5 hours just on back handspring drills. I didn't even touch on the second part, like the rebound or the shape of the body coming down, because we're talking about the safety, a lot of this, and that the safety is going to come from that sit and that block, okay? So making sure that those two areas are strong is key.
That was super. Vicki, that was really, really awesome. Lots of help for amazing tips for teachers. So thank you so much, Vicki, and thank you, teachers, for joining us for this weekly mini. You can learn more about acrobatic arts and our programs at acrobaticarts.com. Be sure to join us next week for our session on how to add your studio to the Certified Studios map and why it is important for advertising with special guest teacher Michelle McBride. See you then, everyone. Take care.